Hello, good morning. Welcome to Sunrise Daily today. I'm Chamberlain Osun.
We're up bright and early on this beautiful Thursday morning. I'm Kayode Okikulu.
Yeah, grateful for ease. Well, some have had it tough getting to the office, but we're optimistic of a very bright morning today as I welcome you to Sunrise Daily on Channels Television. I'm Bukola Samuel Wemimo.
Depending on where you are, you might want to just make a call or check and just be sure that the traffic is indeed light and clear before you ply your routes, because, for instance, you know how it is when traffic inbound Lagos-Ibadan Expressway is a little tight, it spills over into some of the feeder roads, and you know how this story goes. But we'll keep tabs on that for you and see how all of that develops as the day goes on. So that said, don't forget, yesterday, as a matter of fact, we did go through some materials at the rally of the APC in Osun, which had to do with the national anthem that was being played at the time. So we spoke about this and what transpired. And now yesterday as well, we do have a response from Abike Dabiri-Erewa. She titled a statement on national anthem at Osun governorship rally. So she's going ahead and says, well, given what played out. So she says, on behalf of the organizing committee of the Osun governorship rally, which took place today, that's according to this letter, in Osogbo, we apologize for the mix-up in the queue to begin the singing of the national anthem to herald commencement of proceedings. The protocol officer had immediately rushed to the stage when the national anthem started playing, signaling that it should be stopped as the vice president was a few minutes away. This turned out not to be so, leading to the seeming confusion on the queue as to when to start or not the anthem. When to start or not the anthem. So it says, we deeply apologize for the wrong queue and the mix-up.
Well, given that some of these, things happen, we mentioned yesterday, events like this, it's usually tricky with organization, getting the lineup right. In fact, even acknowledging some of the people on ground. It's quite tricky political event. So, this is a background that has been given as to why, the back and forth happened. So, it's out there for Nigerians. And essentially, I think the big picture here is just the treatment of the national anthem, the treatment of some of those things that we revere, the Naira note, for example, the Nigerian flag, all of those things that symbolize or that essentially hold, the power of our nation as a symbol, essentially. So, it's good to have that background to understand what exactly played out. It was expected anyway, so I imagine, as we said, lessons have been learned.
Yeah.
And moving on.
Yeah, and it gives a full view of what may have transpired. We see it from maybe, a distance and are unable to appreciate what exactly may have happened. So sufficient explanation, but yet again, as you have said, Kadi, it's about the treatment of the national anthem, the sanctity of the national anthem. After the program yesterday, I took time to reflect, and ask myself some questions. When we sing the national anthem, do we reflect on the words, arise, O compatriot, Nigeria's Kolobe, and on and on? Do we really pause to think about it? I look forward to, a time in this country, especially with the explanation when, the political office holder, whoever they are, be them the GCFR, and they're arriving, the venue of an event, and the national anthem is playing, and they stop, and, preserve the sacredness of the national anthem by observing it, and beyond that, when we get to our different offices, we're able to be loyal to the message of the national anthem.
There are several issues associated with this which you cannot thrash out at this point in time. But then there are scenarios where people have asked questions as to what happens when there's an event going on and they play the anthem, and then probably one of the high-ranking government officials then come in much later after the anthem has been played. And then at some point, they insist that you play the anthem again. Or perhaps the anthem is played again. So in that kind of scenario, is that the right thing to do? So
Who's
if
more
these
important?
officials are there, shouldn't they be the ones to point out and say, well, listen, given the position that we're in as government high-ranking officials, actually, this, and this is the right thing to do. This is how to approach it. So all of those narratives and questions come into play. So perhaps moving forward, these kind of issues will be thrashed out so that they don't put the compare unnecessarily under the cusp. And who knows how some of these things, you never can tell. But we'll see how all of that eventually turns out, because we'll have a further look at some of these things moving forward subsequently. But for now, we'll just turn our attention to the dailies. Welcome back. It's News Direct that we start with today with the dailies. A look at some of the dailies that we've got for you here today. And look at what they lead with. 2 days to Osun Guber election. Political parties hire thugs, seek spiritual backing. Peace accord risks ill fate. Gunshots saturate concentrated areas. Increase patronage for traditionalists. As politicians seek supernatural powers. So there you go. And you know, you thought gone are the days wherein the way we approach elections, where there's all manner, grades, shades of violent actions. You thought it was gone. But look at the headline today. So gunshots in concentrated areas. Even ANEC themselves, those days, they had to keep, you know, the laws had to keep changing, because time was when if there's violence in your particular spot, maybe PU area, they just counter those elections. The results from that area cannot stand. So politicians took advantage of that and said, well, if my opponent has a stronghold, all I need to do is just to go out there, foment trouble in that area, because the law says if there's trouble, those votes won't count for nothing. And then when I said, okay, so if this is what's going on, then they kept on modifying. So these chaps just keep coming up with
Chamberlain, I think there's a headline, a rider you're missing on the front page of News Direct, beneath the big story there. It's an interesting one. Increased patronage for traditionalists as politicians. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did, because I mean, I just thought, you know, the way they do all they can, whatever they consider possible to get into those offices. And when they get there, you think that they will do all they can to make sure they deliver and turn wherever they are into quote-unquote El Dorado. But alas, it comes across as though, from some headlines, several headlines, it comes across as though they're just there to line their pockets.
So something is fundamentally wrong. And I think it was one of the mails we got yesterday or the day before that spoke to that, how, you know, these offices are really juicy. And I mean, if you want to lead a nation or a state, or at least be in leadership position in the Nigeria of today, I imagine you need to approach it with some sobriety, because I mean, there's a tough job.
It's not in their dictionary.
You know, it's a tough job you're going to do. You're holding the trust of
ideally.
People. Ideally, you know.
But
I
we see something's different.
Goodness. So apparently, it looks like this is a big job. Not in terms of responsibility, but apparently in terms of the reward, the juicy, you know, is it allowances, salaries, and all other perks attached to it. So I think if we address that and make it as simple as, you know, what is wrong with earning a minimum wage? you know, as a representative of the people. In any case, they always say we were rich before we got into government. So hey, you can as well
so why don't you stay rich where you are?
You know, so make do with the minimum
government.
wage. I mean, enjoy what the people are enjoying, the labor people are enjoying. Then let's see how well people will actually jostle for this position. I think at that point you'll find people who really want to make a change.
Well, we'll keep looking at some of these things and hope that things are done correctly. That will be News Direct today.
Well, leadership is next. And this is what the paper leads with. Muslim ticket still on the front page. In fact, some have even shortened it to ticket, just so that they can save space.
And time.
And time, right? And this is what you see. You have nothing to fear, APC assures Christians. It's an act of God. Adamu, that's the national chairman of the APC. Ignore religion, vote competence, Akeredolu tells Nigerians. There you go. Tinubu's wife will be an unofficial Christian VP, says Masari. So it's a page 4 read. So, page 4, you know. It's good to laugh.
It's an interesting way to look at
absolutely.
it.
You don't say.
So but there's an official
Especially
VP.
as the writers start with, it's an act of God.
Interesting one day. It's a page 4 read. Clearly, this
So
doesn't seem to be going away
God is
anytime
vote in
soon.
the elections.
Well, interestingly, you know, the governor of Ondo State says ignore religion, and then this one says it's an act of God. So you wonder, clearly, internalization would be a big one.
And
here.
it's an act of God that you know, the APC presidential candidate's wife is a Christian, so she's going to be unofficial Christian vice presidential candidate.
Interesting.
Unofficial.
So right on top of that, there's been this back and forth about the wristwatch of the governor of Imo State and how much it may have cost or it costs and all of that. And you see
on the front page too?
Yeah, it's on the front page. In fact, it was one of the big stories in one of the dailies. I noticed it yesterday. In fact, I thought
how much did they say it was again? 400 and...
The leadership is saying is over $783,000. That's from the leadership. It looks like they're different accounts. You know, I saw it on one of the deals. I thought it was an advertorial.
Almost.
And this one is saying wristwatch can build state-of-the-art hospital roads. So that's how the leadership couches that one. But you know, we're talking about jostling for leadership, right? There's something going on in the UK now, and I'm sure a lot of people have their eyes on it because maybe Nigeria.
How they pay minimum wage in that state, though? And hope nobody's owed salaries in that state.
Very good question, right? So a lot of
if you need to sell the watch to pay that, what happens?
Okay. That would be an interesting one. I imagine the state government would have responses to this one.
Responses to the watch?
It's cost quite.
By telling us how much the watch is or what? But the public officials, they know they will be under immense scrutiny, so I'm sure that they know it comes to the territory.
But then there should also be accountability.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know, transparency and accountability.
Did he own the wristwatch before he became governor?
Oh, back to that talk of
we were rich before, yes.
So, I mean, big questions to answer or not. But let me just talk about this one. It interests me. UK, Nigeria-born Kemi Badenoch among top 6 contenders for Boris Johnson's job. It's a page 7 read. She's killed the last phase in the running, and there was a poll I saw that said, you know what, she might just have huge chances in this particular one. But then there was a video that was trending yesterday about her talking about how she left Nigeria to the UK, and you know, I listened to what she said about, you know, politicians in Nigeria who you know, they pollute the air. I'm trying to use the words she used. Pollute the air with what is it? Failed promises?
Let me help you, Kadi.
Thank you.
Yes, it's what you wrote, by the way. Yeah, yesterday. They pollute the political atmosphere with their failure to serve others.
What she said. So thank you very much for that.
Yes.
So that's what you find there on the front page of a leadership. Something to chew on, really. But let's leave it there for the leadership newspaper.
Yeah, something to chew on, something especially for Nigerian leaders to chew on. And from the leadership newspapers this morning, let's turn our attention to Daily Trust newspapers. And it leads with this one, VP slot, how Babachir's panel recommended Shatima, 10 others to Tinubu. We'll get back to that one shortly, but let's look at the riders. Grace Bend Subcommittee offered advisory to running mate, campaign DG. Ex-SGF confirms chairing panel distances itself from recommendations. APC chair defends Muslim ticket, says APC will win Osun poll. And now back to, the main headline there, how Babachir's panel recommended Shettima, 10 others to Tinubu. And we've read quite a lot about how he has, condemned the Muslim ticket. Well, it's a surprise departure from, the other commentary that we've been hearing from the north.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like the more you look, the less you see.
And, there's been some sort of response from him, because it's, mixed signals here. And I recall this happened with the PDP's vice presidential committee. You recall the back and forth of whether or not there was a voting, who was eventually recommended. And he said, well, yes, he was actually in charge of the planning and strategy committee, which was set up to implement the strategies for the ticket. But he's not aware of the subcommittee that recommended running mates. So, different sides to that story, and you just wonder, hey, what is going on here?
So what happened? Did anything change along the line after the emergence of Shettima, that he has now,
so he's essentially saying he's not aware of that subcommittee, but he was in charge of, I think, a wider committee for strategies generally, for the tactics for the presidential candidate.
We'll like to hear directly from him so that we can get clarity on that. Now, on the front page of the Daily Trust, you see that picture that speaks to the current fuel situation, and it focuses on the pump price of PMS, 185 naira per litre. That's even a fair one compared to what is, the product is sold in other petrol stations across the country. In Lagos, in some parts of Lagos, it's sold for between 208 naira and 230 naira. And another headline is saying something to us about how the upward review of the price of the PMS is the solution to the current quagmire that we find ourselves in. We need clarity, more clarity from the NNPC. Just yesterday, the corporation said that the fuel situation will be resolved in 3 days. So will it be resolved with an upward review of the pump price?
Big question.
Big question.
Forget, the minister, I think he was one of the people in charge, I'm not sure if the Minister of Petroleum Resources or NMP is saying he was a marketer essentially responsible for this scarcity, I think particularly in Abuja, and then the hike. So what are we hearing? What is the truth? We don't know.
Yeah, that's the Daily Trust newspapers for you.
Nigerian Tribune, Osun Guba, Okowa, Tambuwal in critical talks with Oyinlola, others. Atiku, ASUU lead party's grand rally for Adeleke today. Obi in Osun for LP candidate. 13 political parties sign peace accord. So there you go. That's what you'd see there concerning the governorship elections in Osun State, and you can see the image of all of them, that peace accord scenario. And then right beneath that, Muslim ticket, Christians have nothing to fear, APC. It's not consistent with our federal system, Kaduna PFN. Ignore religion, vote competence, Akeredolu. Ganduje tackles ex-SGF Babachir Lawal. Remember that his letter has spoken about Ganduje having a foundation which converts from Christian to Muslim. So he's tackling him right there. And then they also do have that about the petrol. 165 naira petrol pump price, no longer realistic, ascribed to major marketers. So who's regulating who? Is the tail wagging the dog or what? Because if the NNPC insists that it's got to be 165 naira, and if they say it's no longer realistic, are they saying, no, we will not sell? By the way, they don't sell anywhere beyond 165. Yeah. What's been happening to all of those who are
250
selling above 165 naira per litre?
Per litre. And it makes me wonder what it will be sold, the pump price would be in other parts of Nigeria, i.e. the far north and the down south in the southeast.
Well, they have been buying it for over 165 naira anyway before now. So I'm sure when they see 165, they think, what is going on here?
So is this just for the sake of making that commentary? Because if they say we insist at 165 and then they're not selling at 165, who's in charge?
And where's the place of subsidy amid all of this?
I'll just go back to what Chamberlain said. Is a dog wagging the tail? Take a look at Vanguard newspaper next with this lead. Ganduje, others battle Babachir over APC's same faith ticket. So that's how Vanguard uses, couches that, not Muslim, same faith ticket. It's a page 5 read. And there's a host of riders, really, going through the riders like stories on it. So I'll take a few. Watch your utterances, Ganduje APC stakeholders warn ex-SGF. Same faith ticket amounts to injustice, Sheikh Maraya. With so much distrust, disunity, Nigerians want an all-inclusive government in 2023. That's coming from Sheikh Nuru Khalid. So you have people of the faith actually speaking against the same faith ticket, and a couple of other. NSCIA keeps mum. Northern youths vow to ensure victory for Tinubu Shetima, that's Northern APC youths, as well as other riders. The 165 naira petrol price also makes its way. Moment saying it's not realistic, and that statement from the UK lawmaker and PM aspirant Kemi Badenoch. Nigerian politicians pollute the earth. Not even just the air this time around, page 30. I wonder if there will be a response.
From who?
I don't know. Those concerned. To whom
well,
it
they
may
have to be
concern.
careful when they respond, because if they respond, then they'll bring out what the pollution that they've done in different places.
Gosh,
so
reminds me of what the former PM said. That fantastically corrupt statement. You know, we didn't let it stay lying anyway. But quickly, this one, ASUU, it's unacceptable to still have schools closed 5 months after.
Maybe that's the
coming from
pollution she's talking about. Well, I'm just wondering, Kayode, really.
Okay, way to go. Says Nigeria drifting towards plutocracy. It's 24-page of the Vanguard. I'll just quickly mention this one. I'm not leaving anything for my children to inherit. Buhari. So remember how people say, I want to be the child of a president, the child of a governor. It looks like there's not much in it. That's the Vanguard.
Reverend Father Kuka said something about plutocracy.
Yeah.
Is that not where we are already?
Again, way to go.
Well, again, I'm just wondering this morning. From there, let's go to the Guardian newspapers, and it leads with this one about traffic congestion on the roads. Bottlenecks worsen vehicles clearance, ease of business. Let's take a look at the riders. Hundreds of dealers, agents to be thrown out of business. Used cars from China, Europe, not captured on VIN system. Dealers fear only Nigerian used vehicles will be in market soon. Lexus, Mercedes-Benz not included in new valuation system. Importers abandon older cars due to unreasonable duties. That speaks to the new regime of duties, and importers, dealers have been given a time frame within which to clear old cars, and I think that has passed now. So it's really, they're in a dire situation right now, and they have to pay. Importers have to pay extra, in the new regime. Is it realistic with the current, economic situation? Well, I think it's a question, that begs for answers. Beneath the nameplate, we have this one, still on the Muslim, the ticket, according to Kayode. Muslim ticket is the work of God, says Adamu, as Ganduje tackles ex-SGF. And the next one right beside it, Obi condemns Tinubu's Labour Party obedience will labor till death statement. That's a strong one. You find that story, whatever it means, on page 5 of the Guardian newspapers. And just before we exit, there's another picture that will catch your fancy beneath that one that speaks to the traffic, I believe, on Ikorodu, on Lekki Ekpe Expressway, rather. This one also talks about traffic. Lagos fixes bottleneck at NNPC Junction, Ejigbo, Lagos. That's from yesterday, but the road has not been fixed, evidently, and that demands attention so that commuters and vehicle owners will have a smooth ride, using that road. Evidently there's something wrong with traffic congestion on that road.
That's another pollution, right?
Yes, that's another pollution.
Okay.
That's the Guardian newspapers this morning.
Okay, so there you go. That ends it with a look at some of the dailies here today. You know how we do. Just send us a comment or two about whatever may have tickled your fancy from the dailies, perhaps, and possibly as we progress today. But we will progress in just a moment. Don't go away.
the tradition of the national.
It is the symbolic commitment to upholding democracy, and ahead of the governorship election in Osun State on Saturday, these political parties are committing to a peaceful process. Traditional rulers, representatives of security agencies, civil society organizations, INEC, and other key players are on the ground to observe the process.
You're welcome.
For the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, without peace, the Commission's deployment plan and other arrangements will be frustrated.
I wish to reiterate our commitment to transparent and credible elections. The Commission has taken every step to ensure that a credible governorship election happens in Osun State this weekend.
Thank you very much.
The convener, National Peace Commission, and the Catholic Bishop of Sokoto Diocese, Bishop Matthew Kuka, appeals to politicians to seek peace beyond the elections.
The focus has been on ensuring free, fair, non-violent elections. But I think the second phase, which we need to begin to interrogate and talk to, is beyond just having a peaceful election. That Nigerians desperately are in need of a peaceful environment around which to function.
Meanwhile, the co-chair of the National Peace Committee, former head of state, General Abdulsalami Abubakar, who joined the meeting virtually, urged politicians to play the game by the rule.
No politics of bitterness, no campaign of calumny. And for the youth and the politicians, supporters, please avoid violence. Violence begets violence. So please, let's give peace a chance so that we can have a free and fair election in the Osun State. And then after, we live in perfect harmony.
Accord party.
Next, in alphabetical order, the parties are called to append their signatures, confirming their commitment to the peace agreement.
APC, we have APM, APP, be on standby, Action People's Party. After Action People's Party, we have Boots Party. Boots Party. The people of Osun State. That Osun is not made only for the rich, but also for the poor. That Nigeria itself is a country for all, irrespective of tribe, irrespective of religion, irrespective of background. And that is what we are doing today.
Osun prides itself as a peaceful state in the country, and it hopes to maintain that record during and after the election. Dari Ido, Channels Television News.
That's where we're going to start with this morning, the forthcoming governorship elections in Osun State. And we've got two guests who are joining us from Osogbo this morning. Ene Obi is the convener of Situation Room. She is also the country director for Action Aid. She joins us from Osogbo. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, we also do have Professor Abdulganer Raji, who is the resident electoral commissioner for INEC in Osun State. Good morning, Prof. Thank you for joining us on the program today as well.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for having me as well.
All right, Prof. So I know that INEC, several meetings have been held with political parties and different stakeholders to ensure that the election turns out smooth. The chairman of INEC did talk about some concerns which he wants to see stamped out, but we'll come to that as we go ahead today. But for you, for these elections particularly, is that what you can describe as what ranks topmost on your scale of preference that the Commission likes to see addressed, which will be key or central to a credible, free and fair election for Osun State?
Well, thank you very much. As far as we are concerned, we have resolved to conduct a free, fair, credible, inclusive, and conclusive election. And over the days, I've been seeking for the cooperation of the entire people of Osun State, and we have been getting that cooperation. You can actually see that from some of the clips that we have played. You see the cooperations we have gotten from the traditional rulers, and you could see the attendance at the two programs that we had in the last 2 days, as well. Over the period we were doing the continuous voter registration, as well as when people were collecting their permanent voter card, we were overwhelmed. That shows that there is a high level of enthusiasm on the part of people of Osun State. They actually want to vote, and up till today, the collection of the PVC is ending today. Still, we have a large crowd of people that are turning out in our offices and at the wards where we are doing the collection of the cards. So for us, we are ready to conduct a very free, fair, and credible election, and we have not left any stone unturned. We did extensive voter education and sensitization. The primaries went smoothly, and everybody thought Osun was going to, turn upside down, but everything went well. And so we have been interacting with the people, and we are happy with the situation of things. Over the last 1 year, Osun has been calm, contrary to what people were expecting. So I think the people of Osun are truly the Omaluabis, the virtuous people, and they are ready for this election, and we are also relating with them in that manner.
Now, if the collection of the permanent voter cards end today, what time is that going to be? And what happens when you have so many people on the queue and you put a particular time? Does that then mean that, well, maybe you wait for the last person to pick it up, and after today, that will be it for this particular election? But we assume that they will still have a chance to pick it up for the general elections. Would that be the case?
Yeah, definitely, yes. But you know that in Nigeria and in fact in Africa, we have this 11-tower syndrome. That is just what is happening. This collection has started over a very long period now, and so it's just towards the end that people turn out. But I will commend the people. So they will have the chance to collect their cards after the election. We are still going to announce the dates when the cards will be collected. So there are opportunities for them to get their cards.
Many keep asking us, if they don't have that PVC and they've got the slip, they've been registered, their data is in the system, can they vote?
Well, we operate by the provisions of the Constitution. So what the Electoral Act states, and then the election procedures that we have circulated, is that you must show up at the polling unit with your card. So even if our system will accept it, I'm not saying it's going to accept it, we will not go against the provisions of law. So that is exactly what is going to happen. But let me add that as at 2 days ago, over 76% of the cards have been collected. So that's a very impressive figure.
Well, in fact, we got that 76% actually had been collected, but that was, days ago. And I'd like to get confirmation, especially for the figures now, so we know what to expect. How many registered voters do we have in Osun State? Just how many are you expecting to at least have collected their PVCs and be ready to vote? And maybe have you seen an increase? What is the target for collection? Are you planning to get to 100%, or at least maybe at 90% you're good?
Well, as a scientist, in most cases you don't get to 100%. That's not reality. That's not even natural. But let me put it this way. As at the close of the registration, and when we ran the ABs, that is the verification, to remove the multiple registration and all those invalid registration, the figure of the number of registered voters in Osun State stands at 1,955,657. So out of that, about 1.5 million have collected the cards as at 2 or 3 days ago. So, well, we are trying to put the figures together so that I haven't gotten the figure as at yesterday's evening. But later tomorrow, maybe in the morning, we are going to release the figure when the last person collects his cards today. So we have over 1.5 million that have collected out of that 1.95 million. You recall that in 2019, just 1.681 million were registered. So out of which about 1.2 were eligible to vote, those who have collected their cards then. So by implication now, just around 1.5 million will have the eligibility to vote. Not that we are disenfranchising the others, but those are the people that have collected their cards.
7th hour syndrome. I was going to say, that expression is not an African expression anyway, but it looks like we may have imbibed it more. But quickly, before we take this to Madam Obi, at what time exactly will the collection end for people listening who also want to collect? Is it at 4 p.m.? And what exactly happens? I think Chebale was asking the other time. Is it until the last person on the queue gets it, or at the time it closes, it closes?
Well, thank you very much. It depends on each place where the collection is taking place. In some places, they collect their slips and then look for the card and then issue the card. So in such a place, even when it's exactly 3 p.m. when it's supposed to end, we start normally at 9 a.m. and then ends by 3 p.m. So if they still have some outstanding that they have collected and we're searching for the cards, they definitely will have to issue those cards out and then close the collection.
Looks like a lot of work, really. And this is not even the election proper. This is just in the build-up to the election. But let's take this to Madam Obi and just get her views. You've been on ground for a while now, witnessed the peace accord signing. I've seen some of the materials you have put out on your platforms about the candidates, how much representation there is. But generally, when you look at the election on Saturday, what hits you?
I think I see a lot of preparedness towards the election, and as is customary, we had a meeting with the REC, a pre-meeting with the REC in order to look at the preparedness. We had a briefing with him, and we're satisfied with the level of preparedness. It's not like when they used to have a long term, you have a preparation in terms of training a few days before the election, for especially the beavers, who were quite worried about the beavers. I think beavers was one of the things that was top on the agenda, and the briefing that we were giving, showed that this REC is quite prepared for the election. And because of the training of so many of the NYC graduates who are excited, making them champions. And, so there's so many processes that we have to do towards the election. And I think it's a tick for now. All the meetings that need to be held with the stakeholders from the national level down to the state level, it has been done. The peace accord was signed. And today, this afternoon, on issues of security, we're having a meeting with the DIG, here in Osogbo. And so, and then the observers, the last meeting with observers is holding with, the REC, with the team in INEC team in Osun today. For the Nigerian Civil Society Situation Room, we have been on ground. There has been the trainings of the observers from different perspectives. All of the civil society organizations that need to, have training done are doing it. I think the trainings are ending today for observers. CDD has been on ground. IAGA is on ground. They are deploying hundreds of observers. Action Aid has been on ground, deploying as well, Clean Foundation, Kimpact, and so many civil society organizations and the local organization, they have been, training. So I think we are set. All the other meetings that need to be held. I think more meetings are ending today, and tomorrow is about logistics. I think we are satisfied with the level of preparation. We had meetings. We went to, of course, with the state apparatus, the DSS, the police is today, and the INEC office. So we have been on ground. I think we're ready for the election. We hope that we can hold the political parties accountable for the promises that they have made. We were though worried that some of the political parties did not turn in for the signing of the peace accord yesterday. Those were, worrying signs for us, but I hope that the Kuka Foundation that is hosting the Peace Commission, will follow up with them so that they can sign, because I know that they are also having last-minute campaigns and, some protocols going on as well. I think we're ready.
Quite a number of, processes and preparation invested in the process, which is good. But speaking of holding politicians accountable, are you satisfied with the level of commitment shown by security agencies? Because just this morning, the papers are saying that gunshots were heard in some concentrated areas. And in the build-up to Saturday's election, party candidates have been attacked. Attacks in their homes have been recorded. So is anything security agents are doing giving you that assurance that, the conduct will not be impacted in the way of voter apathy because of, the security situation in Osun State?
I think as civil society organizations, we can only take the words that are coming out from the security, formation. The IGP made very concise, promises and put a lot of points on ground. We are hearing about, especially, on security, yes, we're looking at it. They have said that they're going to prosecute, they're going to arrest, and they have, more than 20,000, I think 21 or so, 1,000 or policemen that will be on ground. And so we can't but take their words. We're going to have further meeting this afternoon to raise our own concerns, because one of the biggest ones is also, let me go from some of the attacks that happened. It's surprising that those things are happening. Has the police followed up? Is some of the questions that we will be asking today, because at this time, when there is a threat, it needs to be followed up. We don't know whether it's because of some of the threats to some candidates that made them not to show up yesterday. So we will for now take the words that they have given us. The other side of it is vote buying. Vote buying was huge in Ekiti, despite the fact that we say the election was, at least it went into a credible, stage. It was peaceful. But we need to be able to treat the issue of vote buying, because it means that if you have a genuine person, that person will not be able to come out, as a winning candidate. But vote buying and selling is a criminal offense. How are they arresting people? What is going on? What are the sanctions that is emitted? We're hearing from the Nigerian police that they have now set up, desks that will do investigation and also prosecute, which is quite promising. Because I believe that we have the systems to be able to arrest all of this. Vote buying seems to be done in secrecy. In what we saw in FCT election, you find out that, people will be migrating to a corner. And, within the 300-meter radius, which is covered by the new Electoral Act, we should be able to take a sort of observe what is going on. The police should be able to observe, because we now know that people are committing crimes, and we need to follow up and try to track it down. So I think also it will go to the citizens.
It's a good thing you have mentioned. It's a good thing you have mentioned vote buying, and to follow up with that, what we saw in Ekiti was the positioning of the ballot box, which, according to reports, may have encouraged vote buying because it was placed in the open. And INEC's explanation was that your party agents and indeed the electorates themselves demand some form of accountability, whereby they can see the voter casting his ballot, because if it is placed, beneath the voting booth, a lot of hanky-panky could be going on. But is that explanation by INEC sufficient, such that that's the best they can do to make the voting process accountable?
I think there are two sides to, having a transparent, environment, an accountable environment. Where you place it, are there other people? Because in the voting, every polling unit have the security people, they have the INEC personnel. Where they are going, can you guide them and ensure that nobody is close to them? You should be able to do that. I saw in Anambra, Anambra, where they were voting, and somebody tried to look, going behind them, and the policeman one policeman was constantly standing there and making sure that nobody got close to the person, and that the person would just go do the voting and just drop. Which means, we are investing a lot in security here. You have the security forces, you have the police, you have the civil defense, you have the army, you have a lot of people who are on ground. You have DSS, you have now ICPC and EFCC. So if people are on ground, how come people are able to still look over a shoulder and you're watching it from afar and you're not telling? What we are now saying is activate your power. It's not for intimidating. Stand aside, like you see people on the queue, which you are showing now. If you see people on the queue, can you let people move in a way that nobody is seeing whatever somebody is doing? So I think the cubicles that they have now is even more protective than what we used to have in the past. So it's important that all security agencies, we should be able to have a pointer from EFCC, DSS, ICPC, and all the agencies that are on ground, but we are holding the police responsible because vote buying is a criminal offense. The tracking, we did hear that in the primaries, the presidential primaries, we heard of the looting, or is it the payment of huge sums of amount. Nobody has been tracked. Nobody has been arrested. Does that mean, how can we be hearing something that is in the air? The Nigerian system has one of the most powerful systems. We now have our BVN. People are not taking this money and storing it in their houses. So what is happening to the network? So we need, the security is doing a lot, but they can do more.
All right.
They need to protect the candidates and then the safety of, of the ballot box.
Let's ask Professor Raji. Just before the Ekiti governorship elections, the chairman of INEC did say categorically that they, INEC, were going to prevent vote buying. They will make sure it doesn't mar the elections, as they have seen with elections conducted by political parties. And then Ekiti happened. The question of vote buying, images were all over the place concerning what transpired. So specifically now, for these elections, what practical steps is INEC putting in place to stamp out this menace?
Well, thank you very much. As far as vote buying is concerned, let me tell you that INEC cannot prevent vote buying. We can only make effort to ensure that people are discouraged from doing it through voter education and sensitization, which we have been doing extensively. In fact, if you see many of our publications, that is exactly what is happening. I don't know where you got the word prevent, because that's not part of our mandate. Vote buying and selling is a criminal offense. INEC is not a security agency that can actually make arrests. We can only, inform the security agents that this is taking place at so place and it's a criminal offense and they will arrest. Then prosecution will take place where we will now be joined. So that is exactly what is happening. So I'm always surprised when people are talking of vote buying and vote selling and whatever, and they expect INEC to be able to stop an act that has nothing to do with the mandate of management of elections. So the people that are involved in vote buying and selling are actually those that should be addressed. But the part that INEC can play is what I have mentioned,
all right,
voter education and sensitization, which
let me read this out to you, Prof.
And we have done that here too as well.
Okay. The chairman of INEC did address the press, and then it was published on the 1st of June, 2022. And he says, quote, "We, INEC, are going to take steps with the EFCC and the ICPC to ensure that this sad trend of using money to bribe voters does not mar the forthcoming Ekiti elections, as we have seen in the elections conducted by political parties." That they were going to ensure that it doesn't mar the elections.
That is exactly what I've just told you. That is exactly, let me tell you something, that is exactly what I've said now. So that issue of prevention, that INEC will prevent, I mean, I don't know where it emanated from. We will work with the anti-graft agencies, ICPC and EFCC, and I've said that the security agencies, the agencies that are responsible for such
so if you're going to work with them, to what end?
Act,
isn't it to prevent it from happening?
Please hold on, please hold on, please hold on. And hold on, let me tell you something, we are working with them. We have a committee, interagency committee on election, consultative committee on election security. ICPC, the police, all other security agencies and EFCC are members, and we meet regularly, and that is exactly what is happening. So even when we were doing the collection of the card, the ICPC and EFCC were moving around to ensure that people are not either paying our staff or bribing whoever to collect cards. So that is their mandate. Our mandate is to manage elections, and we will work with them. Does not mean that we are going to prevent. How can we prevent something that is not part of our job? But we can facilitate the prevention.
In other words,
working with the agencies that
are responsible. Should we then take it that, I mean, when the commission says we're going to work with them to ensure that this does not mar the elections, whereas it's understood that when you're working with those agencies, it's to prevent it, to make sure it doesn't happen. You're not working to supervise it, you're working to prevent it.
It is to prevent it. It is to prevent it, but the way you put it was INEC will prevent. INEC cannot prevent. INEC can work with agencies that are responsible for the prevention, and that's exactly what we are doing.
So what is the role of INEC in this case? Just to work with them and that's it?
The role of... Yeah, well, are we not working with you now? Are you not promoting voter education as a media outfit?
With respect to...
So can you prevent robbery? But you report robbery.
There are two different things, Prof. Because you are saddled with that responsibility to ensure that...
Let's get it.
Maybe you don't like the word prevent. Is that the point?
Right. Let's get it right. That's exactly what we can do. Because you are putting something that is not ours on us, and I must not accept that. Otherwise, you will eventually take me up that you are not able to prevent it. But that's not the mandate given to me. I am to work with these agencies to ensure that they reduce it to the barest minimum and, if possible, prevent it outrightly. And we have been doing that. We have been working with them.
Speaking of working with them, Prof, in the Ekiti election, we saw and we reported that the EFCC was able to arrest some vote buyers, in a particular location. So can we take it that INEC is vigorously pursuing that case? Because experts have identified vote buying and selling to thrive because INEC does not prosecute electoral offenders. So should we take it for granted that INEC is vigorously pursuing that outcome of vote buying in the Ekiti election?
Definitely, of course. So if INEC would call the security agents to arrest somebody, we definitely will follow it up, and we are following in a lot of cases up. You've heard of the case of somebody that was involved in giving our cards out to some other people. We are still following it up. I still discussed that with the police yesterday. So, but it is not everything that is happening internally that you will know publicly. So, but if you care to know, then we will show you all the necessary cases that we are still following up.
Some of these cases are in court, and we expect that prosecution will happen, an eventual, I don't know, sentence handed down. Let's, come back to, some of the general areas, and we're due for a break in about 3 minutes. Let me take this to Madam Obi first, to speak to, this issue of voter inducement, financial voter inducement. And you've listened to Prof, Madam, and I wonder what's your perspective on INEC's role in ensuring, INEC's messaging, how INEC, puts out these messages such that whoever is going to be involved in this has that mentality that, wherever I turn, whatever happens, nobody is going to permit this act that I'm trying to perpetrate. So how do you think INEC can be a part of this? What do you think INEC should be doing to ensure there is no financial voter inducement?
Okay, thank you very much. By the way, good morning, Prof. It's good to see you here. I think Prof will need to, for some of the things that we're looking at, is you're doing it already. INEC has improved. I want to commend INEC at the national level and also at the state levels for the work that they are doing. The improvement we have today is because of the steps that were taken by INEC. And that is the prevention we are talking about. Before now, you can snatch ballot boxes and it will be okay, and you do some printing. It was the efforts of INEC that over the years, because of looking at lessons learned from past elections, that made them now that ballot box snatching is no longer in vogue. Because even if you snatch now, what are you going to do with it? You can't do thumb printing anymore, and it will work for you. And so there are so many things that INEC has done. If you say you cannot prevent robbery, I want to use the example of Prof. You cannot prevent robbery, but you can lock your door. And so even at the police station, the polling unit, from the Electoral Act, it gives you the liberty to be able to monitor what is happening within 300 meters. And so when you look at that, within those 300 meters, we have the police there. In many of the polling units, you have the DSS, you have ICPC, you have the civil defense and several forces. What we are asking is activate those things to put their eyes on ground. There is no way that many of these people, we should be able to have a lot of examples from, Osun State that will tell us that even that is becoming impossible. Vote buying and selling is happening in this environment and people watch it. But how do you prevent it? Yes, we're talking about from the civil society angle, we're educating the public, we're sensitizing the people about the dangers of vote buying. This is, what happens is you selling your vote, at the end of the day, the person comes and loot the treasury. Can you hold that person accountable? You cannot hold that person accountable because you are also guilty. And we are telling citizens that it is important for you to be vigilant. Those who are giving money are not the people who are going to do any kind of work for you. If you are looking at what is happening today, many of the governors, when they win the elections, of course, they have so many things that comes to them even after the leadership.
All right,
of
Madam.
The state.
We'll
pension gift cannot continue with that.
We'll go to break now, but we'll come back to you to continue your train of thought in just a moment. Do stay with us.
Hey, welcome back. We're still counting down to Osun governorship election. It's this Saturday, months and months of preparations. All of that comes down to this Saturday, the moment of truth. Let's continue our conversation with Madam NLB. We still have Professor Abdulgani Raji also joining us, the rec for Osun State. But Madam Obi, before that break, you were talking about, voter inducement, what should be done, and all of that. And I'm thinking from the kind of messaging from INEC, for example, saying that, well, we're not meant to prevent, it's not our job to prevent. I wonder if that's a concern for you, because it would, for those listening who may have plans already, wouldn't they think, oh, okay, it looks like this is a fertile ground to perpetrate this act. So maybe should the wording be, well, we have zero tolerance for financial voter inducement, we do not condone this, so that people listening can as well say that, well, INEC means business, and there's not going to be any sort of that.
I think for me, I want to appeal to Prof and the team to pronounce it better. I'm sort of confused and appreciative, because I think they're really doing it already. Of course, you are doing vote buying prevention. That's why you got the kind of cubicles that you have now. That's why we make sure that the people don't crowd the environment. If you don't crowd the environment, rigging becomes even more impossible, or vote buying becomes more impossible. The environment that you establish is very, very important. The ambience of the environment is very, very important. The tolerance of your team is also another very important level. And so, I did commend you earlier, and all the preparedness that you have done is to improve from where we are coming from. We also have the assurance that Osun will be better than Ekiti, and that's what we're looking forward to. And I'm really a bit confused to hear that, you are not doing prevention. Of course you are doing prevention. Or maybe is it a confusion from my side? Every step that you are taking is to make the place better. Like persons with disabilities, for example. We complained, because of the different factors of the height of the cubicle and all of that. And I know that INEC is doing certain things about it. You have the preferential or the priority line for people with disability, pregnant women, expectant mothers. You also have, for aged people. And we saw that playing in the past elections, that people are taking it very seriously. So I think it's important that you keep up to see that you're working your promise with the security agencies. You are able to keep it up, and everyone is involved to make a difference.
All right.
Why don't we make a difference now? We say, arise, O compatriots. Everybody is arising. We are working from the civil society, the media, and all of your team. People have not been sleeping.
All
the
right.
difference that we make is the improvement in the election.
Okay, so Prof, after the Ekiti happened, the chairman of INEC, of course, also spoke about what transpired. He wasn't happy with some things that played out during that election. And again, he says, quote, clearly, vote buying is a threat to our electoral democracy. To discourage the practice, we changed the configuration of our polling units to bring the ballot boxes closer to the voting cubicles, and also banned the use of mobile phones and photographic devices by voters while in the voting cubicles. Can you hear me? Okay, so is this what we should expect for these elections? And could you shed some light on this now? How is the voting going to play out in terms of the voting cubicles, as it were? Okay, I think we lost the communication channel with Professor Raji. We'll come back to him as soon as we get that back on. But Madam Ene, the voting cubicles, the positioning of the voting cubicles, is not the first time that this kind of concern has been raised, because they say that it facilitates, it even helps those who take advantage of that in terms of how they show where they've thumbprinted to people who then take them to a particular corner. What would you like to see this time around?
I think it's actually not, It's actually not a fact that somebody can thumbprint for another. The problem that we have had
well, that also feels at the moment, but well, don't worry, we don't expect this scenario to play out on the election day in Osun, so no voter will face this kind of scenario. But we haven't even spoken about the beavers, for instance. You remember that, guys, there was a lot of enthusiasm about beavers for Anambra, only for them to show up, and then that happened. But we're hoping that we'll get to that point. So, Madam Obi, yeah, we've got you back. So could you go ahead with your response about the positioning of the voting cubicles and the voter?
The positioning, you know, we have been worried about it, and what we have done with INEC all this while is to review every election that we move through. And so the voting cubicles, people are getting worried now because they still see that some people take pictures. But if we have, you know, the watchful eyes of the security people, as you move in there, you cannot take a snapshot. Once you have printed, you ought to come out straight. I think the fastness of that, you know, has to do with it. People have thought, okay, why don't you just put the ballot box right in front there? And we are looking at the secrecy of the person's voting, and also to make sure that the person doesn't have anything in their pockets. And so it's a balance here, but I think they will shift it better this time. We hope that at the end of the day, we have a better process. But it's a learning process. We review this all of the time, and we need to get back there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Professor
On the beavers, yeah.
Yeah, just a minute. Let's get Prof to give us what a scenario, bird's eye view of what to expect on that day. So, Prof, I hope you can hear this now. So, could you tell us what should we expect concerning positioning of the ballot boxes on that day?
Okay, thank you very much. That's actually our role, our own mandate, to ensure that we take steps that will make some of these activities not to be practiced within the precincts of the polling units. And that's the way I wanted it to be, related to people. But because you will eventually take me up and take the chairman up if you are quoting us out of context that we are preventing. I'm not arguing that we are taking preventive measures, but we are ensuring that this will not happen by working with the security agencies, but our own role is to ensure that these things doesn't happen within the precincts. And that's part of the reasons why, like Madam said, we have a new design for our cubicles that will not allow people to see when somebody is voting. But let me put it this way. By law, what we operate is an open, secret, open election, balloting. What is the first open? The first open one is you bring your card, we do accreditation. Everybody will see what we are doing. You'll be issued ballot paper in the open. And then you go into the cubicle to go and cast your vote secretly without anybody seeing you. And then you now come to the open again to drop your ballot paper into the ballot box. You are expected to have folded your ballot paper after casting your vote before you now come and put it in the ballot box. Now,
Prof, the
when somebody
point
chooses
is, Prof, let me just quickly come in there. Pardon me, Prof, let me come in there. It is at that point that the voter does not conceal. It's at that point that the voter does not conceal the ballot. The ballot paper is folded in such a way that the party agent can see the ballot that has been, the choice that has been made.
If you had allowed me, hold on, if you had allowed me to finish, there wouldn't be any need for you to even just cut in. The issue is when somebody decides to open it and go and now drop the opened paper in the ballot, he has run foul of the law, and such a person should be arrested. And it is not the presiding officer that will arrest, it is the security agents that will arrest. And that is why the chairman said we will ensure we work with the security agencies. This is exactly the explanation that I've been making. But you see, sometimes some words we will be eventually taken up if we accept some things.
So what can be done to prevent it at that level? Can the number of party agents be reduced within the precincts of the voting area? Can the ballot box be positioned in such a way that, the voter is concealed from party agents?
You see, the law states that each party must have an agent. So we cannot reduce the number of party agents. That is not possible. But there are rules to be observed. Where they will stay is specified. So when those are not, being respected, it is the duty of our presiding officer to ensure that he calls the security agents to ensure that those people respect the rules and regulations governing the conduct of the election. So that's why we will have to work together, but not saying that INEC must, INEC will, INEC will. Of course, INEC cannot be an island on his own. Well, we have to work with every other person. So please, I don't want to be quoted out of context.
It's okay, Prof.
I don't want to be misunderstood. Well, please, let me explain.
No, I was going
Prof,
to give because of time.
I was going to give an example.
We're totally out of time, Prof. Of course, I know. We're working together on this, and I appreciate your position. But I think the point should be made that INEC essentially has zero tolerance for financial inducement.
We should also work together with the media.
Absolutely.
The press should assist us as well.
On a final note, Prof, which is what we're doing. On a final note, so in the 2018 election, we had a rerun. The margin, about 350 something, was less than the number of cancelled votes, and that was a major challenge. And seeing that there were lots of cancelled votes, over 3,000 cancelled votes, and I wonder, learning from that experience, do you think INEC may have learned from that and hopefully will prevent such in this particular election?
Yeah, exactly. We have learned from that, and then there are some amendments that have been made to the Electoral Act of 2010, which eventually led to the Electoral Act 2022. So some of these steps were taken. The amendment emanated from the lessons that we have learned in the previous elections that made us make some recommendations. And then we sat even with the National Assembly with a lot of stakeholders before we made all our recommendations. So you will see an improvement, and you have been seeing improvement. Of course, in Ekiti, there was not even a single cracker, so no death, no injury, no whatever. So we are improving. And
all right, Prof.
That's exactly what I'm saying. We should all work together. The press, the security, INEC, everybody, and the electorate as well as the political class.
That's what we always like to do here, as a matter of fact, moving forward. So we'll keep in touch and ensure that at least let the people keep understanding how the BVAS will play out, how collation of ballots will not be a challenge, how rigging will be stamped out. So all of that information we'll keep passing out to the people as much as we get them from your commission, yourself, and the lot. But I want to thank you for coming on today, Professor Abdulgani Raji, the Resident Electoral Commissioner for INEC in Osun State, as well as Madam Ene Obi, the convener of Situation Room and Country Director for Action Aid. Thank you both for coming on today.
Thank you for having us.
All right. We're back in a moment. Stay with us.
The observation that I have abandoned my base for so long was given to a no less personality than the Emir himself during Eid. And he was holding, you know, the microphone, and he said the last time I was here in my home was last year this time. I think he deliberately reported me to my constituency. Well, it's good I have come because I know in 10 to 11 months' time I will come here. It's so far away from everywhere that people should leave me alone. I have a better house in Kaduna, but Kaduna is too close to Abuja for me. After I leave office, I will come here. Well, I have made the maximum of the 2 terms, God willing, in 10 months' time. I hope that the institutions we have, like ASUU, will sympathize with the country and the people. There's nothing wrong with showing the government and the leadership that you don't like what they are doing. But enough is enough. Don't hurt the next generation, for goodness sake. So those of you who have friends that are teachers and influential or even not influential, please persuade them to go back to classes so that our children can resume their educational pursuit. People, whether they like it or not, they are realizing that the old culture developed during colonial days, that you get educated to get a government job. That's no longer. Now you get educated for the sake of education. Because where are the jobs? The jobs are virtually finished. And technology is making things easy.
Well, back to matters concerning ASUU, and as you've seen, Professor Emmanuel Osodeke, president of ASUU, joins us this morning. Good morning, Prof. Thank you for joining us on the program today. I know you heard about what the president said about ASUU going back to the classrooms, but let me add this to it. The Ministry of Labour put up a statement yesterday, and they categorically said the president does not sign collective bargaining agreements. And many wondered, why is this coming up now? And then they say this clarification has become necessary in view of the deluge of deliberate misinformation being dished out to Nigerians by the president of ASUU, Professor Osodeke, as well as his branch leaders calling on President Buhari to sign an agreement which they claimed have reached with the federal government. So this is the statement they put out. We reached out to Labour Ministry, by the way, to be on the program, but at the moment they are not able to make it. So, Prof, how do you respond to this direct accusation from Labour?
Thank you very much. It really is surprised that we have a Minister of Labour who could respond this way. Have ASUU ever said that President Muhammad Buhari should sign any agreement? What we have said is very clear. In 2017, the president set up a committee to negotiate on behalf of government, on his behalf, with ASUU. That committee there was headed by Dr. Wole Babalaki. And that negotiation has continued today. Somewhere they removed him and brought in Professor Musali Jubri, a renowned professor. And we reached an agreement with him. I was sent to the president, like we said, let Nigeria listen. It was sent to the president to give permission to Musali Jubri to sign on his behalf, which is what is done anywhere in the world, which was done by Babangida, which was done by Goodluck Jonathan, which was done which is what we expected to sign on. A committee is set up. Then, after 1 year, they did return back to us. When we went on strike, they set up that committee, this time headed by Professor Nimi Briggs. That committee was set up by the president, made up of the following membership: Professor Nimi Briggs, Senator Chris Adihije, a renowned senator, Professor Olu Obafemi, a renowned professor, Professor Lawrence Mbale, Professor Fumi Togonu, Bika State, Professor Zuberu Ilasu, and Barrister Seyefa. People were set up by government to negotiate with ASUU in a collective bargaining so that we can have it. But now, when we met with this committee again, we also reached an agreement. And when we met with the first year, are you representing the government? Are you sure? They said they are representing the government. You have their mandate to negotiate. They say yes. And we finished. And they also told us again, want to go back. That is in June, on June 16, to go and get permission to sign. So where this Minister of Labor get the idea that somebody ever said that President Buhari should sign as a person is really strange. And it should be in labor.
Okay.
Anybody who sign agreement is signed on behalf of the president, on behalf of the government.
You know,
so
additionally, Prof, they also say that that NIMI Briggs committee, just like the Professor Munzali committee it replaced, is an internal committee of the Ministry of Education of the Education to receive ASUU's demands and renegotiate areas of 2009 agreement, while also receiving briefs from the MDAs mentioned above that act as advisors before making any counter offer to ASUU and other unions. Unfortunately, ASUU insisted that these relevant advisory MDAs recused themselves from the sitting of the Briggs Committee, accusing them of non-cooperation. And now it goes on to say, all alone with the Professor Briggs Committee, ASUU started fixing their salaries and allowances to the exclusion of the statutory government ministries and agencies that manage the entire annual finances of government's budget and fiscal policies, and the Office of the Head of Service that is in charge of ensuring the public service rules and regulations are not undermined in any condition of service offered to public offices in the universities.
Thank you very much. You see, what we have found out in where we are today is the Minister of Labor. You remember about 2 months ago, he came to the public and said he's just a conciliator, that our employer is the Minister of Labor, and we go to the Minister of Labor and negotiate with our employer. This is exactly the words of Chris Ngige, the Minister of Labor. Therefore, the same man to turn around again to say that that minister, a Minister of Labor, a very gentleman, a man with good character who does not talk anyhow, just like we had the one in Labor, came out and on behalf of government negotiated with us, set up a panel that he has. And let me tell you, Chamberlain, in that panel, in that degree, the Minister of Labor was represented by one Franca Adieku, and she attended all the meetings, signed all the minutes, signed all the attendance. In all the meetings, that person was there. Salary and wages were represented by Mr. Nzaga, and he was in all the meetings. Federal character was represented, Minister of Justice was represented, NUC was represented, Techno was represented, and all these to me, what the Minister of Labor has done is a complete insult on the character of people like Professor Nimi Briggs, Emeritus Professor, an insult on the character of Senator Chris Adihije, a renowned senator, an insult on Professor Olu Obafemi, a world-renowned professor. I think it's so sad that the minister, instead of looking at how to resolve the problem, is busy abusing his colleagues, abusing with the Minister of Education. I think it's so sad. We expected the minister to have gotten a report from Franca Adieku so that he knows exactly what happened. We want to challenge the minister to show the ministers where it was stated that their members were worked at. Thank God we have all the ministers. And we're going to pray to the Nigerian public on Tuesday next week. Let it show where the people worked out of, were out to leave any of the meeting. It is so sad that we go to the state where our children, our young men and women are busy, are lamenting at home, and the Minister of Labor is busy churning up fake information and misinforming the public, trying to undermine a union of integrity like ASUU.
Well, just to be clear, Prof,
and we hope Nigeria should hold it responsible for what is happening in this strike today. You believe that the best thing to do is hold our salary 5 months ago, and then when you hold our salary, the strike will end. It didn't end. It's coming with fake news. I think Prof, it's so sad.
I need to also just reiterate that, this is the 5th month of the strike. I mean, it started February the 14th. This is July the 14th. And for a lot of people, that's 5 months of their lives literally wasted for those who have not found anything to do. But just to be further clear about this point, in the statement, the government, the federal government, was particular with the word, saying that, you know what, those relevant government agencies did not have input in, you know, your fixing of salaries and allowances. So representation is one thing. To what extent were those people who represented the relevant MDAs, to what extent did they have an input in the fixing of those salaries and allowances during those consultations and meetings?
Thank you very much. You see, we are not negotiating with ministries. We are not negotiating with MDAs. We negotiated with a committee set up by the Federal Republic. So, and that is, we are not looking at MDAs. We are looking at a committee. I thought that it is a committee that should negotiate with the MDAs. But let me also affirm to you, the first meeting we had with this committee, Nimi Breeze Committee, what they had we also give a copy of that document to the public. What they told us that they have gone around all the ministries and MDAs, including Ministry of Labor, Income, Salary and Wages Commission, Ministry of Finance, Budget Office, and that they have gone around all these ministries to collect the idea before coming to us. We have the document that we'll give to you. So for that same minister to come out to say that, although they have gone around all of them, and they didn't give them the permission. Who's the Minister of Labor to give permission to the Minister of Education to negotiate with the union? That can be done by the President, not the Minister of Labor. He is just a conciliator. That is his position. He's not the one in negotiation. Like he also used the word that he is just a conciliator who will help to bring Minister of Education and ASUU together. He is not the one we are negotiating with. It's not the government. By the law, by the ILO constitution, he has no idea to bring us together. He has nothing to do with it. So why is he now speaking on behalf of the person which he's speaking with? I thought this speech should come from the Minister of Labor if you believe that they have not done the right thing. Not from Ngige.
You mean Minister of Education?
Minister of Labor.
Education or Labor?
Sorry, Minister of Education.
Okay.
Have you consulted the Minister of Education? It's the one who should be speaking, not a conciliator who pretend to be a conciliator. That's what he's showing now. A conciliator does not interfere on both sides. He brings them together, but not that the conciliator is now the one trying to destroy the process. He has a personal issue.
All right, Prof. We'll be back in just a moment. We'll take a look at some more responses, so don't go away. Able to make it. So they put up a statement, part of which we are getting the response of the president of ASUU, Professor Emmanuel Osodeke, who joins us virtually. Well, Prof, part of that statement also says that having rounded off its work, that's the Professor Nimi Briggs Committee now, the committee returned as verdict that with the Professor Briggs proposal of 109 to 185% increase in the university wage structure, the federal government will incur an additional 560 billion naira as salaries alone, on top of the present 412 billion naira, less all other allowances, such as earned academic allowances and fringe benefits, teaching allowances, field trip, responsibility and postgraduate supervision allowances, hazard allowances, which he says were to go up another 170 billion. In all, the sum of 1.12 trillion will be needed to pay the salaries and allowances of university lecturers and other staff in the university system. This suggests that they cannot bear it.
The question I will ask, how did the Minister of Labor have access to this documentation? That's question one. Question two, if Nigeria needed just 1.3 trillion naira to fund its university, then assuming what you say is true, if you needed 1.3 trillion to ensure that Nigerian university compete with any university in the world, to ensure do not have foreign students coming to Nigerian universities, to ensure that the university is such a way that we have federal lecturers coming to this system, which one is more important? That one, I'm spending 4 trillion naira to subsidize fuel within a period of 4 months. What I'm saying that this minister, who's supposed to be a conciliator, has turned itself to an interloper, to somebody who coming in to destroy the system. If not for his intervention, this thing would have ended long ago. We are saying it's a collective bargain, both sides, and we have finished as far as we are concerned. Not going to back to a minister, a conciliator, who is supposed to be an independent umpire, to not be the one trying to destroy the process by one, the one instructing Minister of Finance to stop our salary.
Pardon me.
Two,
I'd like us to stay away from personal attacks. So we just tackle the issues as they are, maybe on the person of the Minister of Labour or any other person. So, I mean, in trying to solve one problem, we do not create another. But particularly to the question Chamberlain asked, are you saying that the Minister of Labour should not have access to that document? Is it a secret document? Is a part of government anyway? So
we are not saying he doesn't. It's his business, but as far as we are concerned, it's not him. We negotiated with our employer according to him, Minister of Education. Let the Minister of Education be the one who will speak, not a conciliator. You know what a conciliator is? It's like a judge. A judge who are judging between two people. It's not you who will not side in a side, taking side with a group. It's just the Minister of Education that will be saying this thing that the Minister of Labour is saying. Let's get the Minister of Education to speak. Not the Minister of Labour who says he's a conciliator. Which means his own idea is to ensure that the thing doesn't go. To ensure that everything collapses.
So, Prof, I know that you have been reluctant in the past to give details of whatever outcome of negotiations you were having with the Nimik-Briggs Committee on whatever agreement that was reached. But if government is saying that, look, we can't afford 1.12 trillion naira, has ASUU at any point in the negotiation shifted, you know, perhaps proposed a middle ground to say that, okay, if you can meet us halfway, this is a possibility? Has anything like that occurred amid the negotiations?
Let me say it again. It's a collective bargaining. And the position we have accepted, the amount of money we have accepted, is an offer by the government. I will have documentation. I will say on Tuesday we are addressing the press. We are going to give that whatever was proposed is not from ASUU. We had our proposal, but what we accepted by both sides, the Nimik-Briggs Committee representing the federal government, not the Ministry of Labour, and ASUU, is the proposal by the Nimik-Briggs Committee. And we still should be rating. I will have the documentation. On Tuesday we are addressing the press in Abuja, and we are going to give this documentation to all Nigerian press, Nigerian journalists, to know that either there is a confusion in the system or somebody is playing pranks.
What was the role? What was the role or input of government representatives of government agencies that were present at the negotiations all through? Did they provide any advisory contribution in terms of how, you know, in response to what the negotiations, the outcomes of the negotiations at any point?
They all did. They all participated. Even committee they served. Let me give you a typical example. We claim that salary of our commercial should be deconsolidated. That instead of putting it as one block, it should be put into salary allowance and what have you. And one of the agencies, salary income and wage, said no, they don't agree. And we accepted with them. So it is not correct what they are saying. And remember Mr. Zaga, he said they don't agree, that they don't have any problem with the salary, the quantum, but it should not be deconsolidated. And after negotiation, we agree. So for the Minister of Labour to say they did participate is really strange. And I said, these people that don't, I think people like Adigije, people like Minister of Nimik-Briggs, they will be very sad today that at their own level, haven't gone this level in their career, haven't established their name, that the minister will come and say they were there and also chase away part of the government team. I think it's very sad. That we can see why.
Prof, say that again. Yeah. You said they didn't have any reservations about the quantum.
No, that is the, what do you call it, the salary. They didn't have problem with the quantity, the amount, but they have problem with consolidation and deconsolidation.
And you can be quoted on that. Because it's a departure from what the statement is saying. The statement is saying that we can't afford 1.12 trillion naira, but you're saying that the agency said they didn't have a problem with the quantum.
We have the minutes. We have the minutes of the meetings. And we're also going to present to Nigerian people on Tuesday. We have the minutes.
A document before the president waiting to be signed right now?
The document, as far as we are concerned, it's not we that will take the other things they want to take it to the president through the minister. And I think they have done that. If they didn't do that, we would never start talking. And I believe that what we're having, the problem we have today is that people like the Minister of Labour go to misinform the president. And that's what you heard the speech by the president. That speech by the president, because this misinformation by the Minister of Labour. If the president had been properly briefed by the brief committee through the Minister of Education, I don't think the president would have been saying this of enough is enough, go to your class while we are negotiating. That is the Minister of Labour and his group that would have gone to the president to brief him like what he's saying now, that we chase out people, we fix our salary. Is it possible that will happen like Nimi Briggs? Like Lou Obafemi, the president government, NUC Executive Secretary, with the government, and the union will say, we will fix our salary ourselves. And like I said, the beauty of it that we insisted they should give us a written proposal on what they want to give to us. And we have that documentation, original, signed by the government team.
Interestingly,
offering what the agreement today.
Interestingly, government has been quite consistent with that go back to work while we negotiate. I think that's been something that has been said time and again. But just to be clear again on that point, the question Chamberlain asked, what came out of the negotiations? Is it a proposal or a draft agreement?
What we have is a draft agreement. You see, this is started from a ASUU panel on how government should negotiate with union during the era of Babangida. And that is why in 2009, it was Dr. Is there now, Gamali Onosode, that signed on behalf of the 2009 agreement people are talking about, was signed by Dr. Gamelia Onosode on behalf of the government.
But the minister, the federal government says what they have is a proposal and not a draft agreement. So essentially,
what we have is a draft agreement, not proposal. You should look at it. If you have seen it, you should publish the front page to the government. You should publish the. We will also give you on Tuesday. Send your people. We'll give you the draft agreement. We'll show you a copy.
So let's talk about that draft agreement. It's a draft agreement. So let's talk about the content of the draft agreement. As my colleague said, it's been, you've tried to keep it on the wraps, but it looks like it's out now. So if the sum of 1.12 trillion naira is needed to pay the salaries and allowances of university lecturers and other staff in the university system, the government is clearly saying that, you know what, there are other workers and unions that also want some sort of wage review, and talked about the health workers, you know, even university workers and others. And I wonder for you, are you confident, maybe you have information that we don't have, that government indeed can afford that 1.12 trillion naira?
We are not aware of that 1.12 trillion. I don't know how they arrive at that. We're not aware of it.
So the calculation,
we're not aware of that.
The calculation is, and I'd like you to also maybe debunk it. The calculation is 560 billion naira as salaries alone. That's from the statement. 412 billion naira less other allowances such as earned academic allowances and the rest, and 170 billion naira for those hazard allowances, you know, the postgraduate supervision and the rest. So is that indeed what you agreed upon, or it's something different or lesser than that?
I say we are not aware of where this their so-called figure arrived from. We are not aware. We are not. And let me tell you about collective bargaining. If we have finished the negotiation and have a draft agreement, what we expected them to do in 2020, you go to your principal, if there are issues, that's what, if you have issues, you let her have it, you come back to the table and negotiate it. You don't jump to the press and misinform the public to try to raise the public against the party to the agreement.
So you're saying that
it is technically wrong.
So you're saying the figure is less or is more than that? Just to be clear, are you saying that it's not as much as 1.12 trillion naira?
Look, I said our agreement. In our discussion, we did talk about 1.2 trillion or 2.4 trillion or 1 trillion or 500 trillion. We didn't.
Is it lesser than that then? Maybe the government is probably interpreting this wrongly.
I said we didn't calculate the quantum of what we would need. We calculated what each member of our union will earn.
So maybe government has...
And what we are earning.
You can go ahead, please.
If this man who is telling you this figure can tell a lie that ASUU chased out his members from the negotiation, why would not tell a lie about figure?
Well, the words used, and Prof, I'd like to say it again, the words used in that statement, which I believe you have seen, is recuse themselves. And I'd like us to be careful as well, not to be personal about this. So let's just be clear on the figures. Did you do accumulation of the figures and it didn't come to 1.12 trillion, or you left government to add it together?
That is not our business. That is not our business. Our business is to negotiate. We expect government to do their whatever they before they offer us and give us an offer. They gave us an offer.
But Prof, just moments ago,
yes,
you were asking how come the Minister of Labour had access to that document if he was denying in the first place. So your initial position was an acknowledgement of the 1.12 trillion naira.
I've never acknowledged it.
But you asked how come the Minister of Labour had access to the document. So,
I said the ministry is churning out fake report because we negotiated with the Minister of Education. So whenever they got the document they are talking about, it's their business, not our own.
But you also asked, Prof, if 1.12 trillion naira is too much to transform Nigerian universities to world standards.
Yes,
So is that not an acknowledgement of that figure?
I did ask that question.
Is that not an acknowledgement of the figure?
Let me give you one of the reasons we believe that what he's saying did not really add up. What they are saying. As we speak, they have not finished negotiation with SANU. They have not finished negotiation with NASU. They have not finished negotiation with NAT. So if you have not done negotiation with these three unions, and you're only done with one, how did you arrive at the total amount that you said is 1.2 trillion?
So have you done your own calculation? What is your own figure arriving at? And how significantly different is it from this one put out by the Ministry of Labour? Please,
let me put it to you again, to this country. Our business is to propose salary for each of our members in Nigerian universities. It is duty of government to know how much they will need to settle that amount. And if the government have given us a proposal of what we agreed on from them, and I said I will give you a copy on Tuesday, which means they have done their work. If that committee has said they have gone around the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Labour, Ministry of Finance and Wage Commission before they came back to us, they would have done their work. You don't have to come and tell us about those things when we have finished the negotiation.
All right, Prof. As we wind down now, I mean, talk to us about this, if you will. They also spoke about ASUU and other staff of universities complaining about IPIS, saying it did not capture the peculiarities of the university system, that the salaries and peculiarities like sabbatical were being amputated. And so ASUU came up with UTAS as an alternative platform. Now, it says, subjected to critical and vulnerability test, a bulwark against fraud, that's what that test is about, during salary payment at NIDA, it failed. It says, it also failed the stress tests. Meanwhile, non-teaching staff of universities also came up with UPIS, each vowing not to succumb to each other. But following the tripartite plus meeting of May 12, 2022 at the presidential villa, NIDA was directed to subject the three platforms of IPIS, UTAS, and UPIS to test. Now, he says that fresh tests and for UTAS and UPIS has been concluded and results awaited, while that of IPIS is still in the works, but all will be concluded in the next 1 week. So, in addition to your response to this, so hypothetically now, I mean, since it's failed the first test, and this is scientific, what happens if the result comes out the same?
Let me explain to you. Our UTAS did not fail any test, and we have addressed the press on this. It's just a cooked-up story. In the first time UTAS were tested, it scored 77%. By their own calculation, I will have the result. And the government said it failed, that we should come again. We met again, I scored 99.3%. You can't see a solution that scored 99.3% failed. Will you say that? It's just the idea to ensure that we, all of us, are pushed into this IPs that is busy destroying the country today. As I speak to you, how many of my colleagues have not been paid for 24 months? We have those who will pay this month, next month who are not paid. They pay some people, the consequential adjustment you talked about. All University of Agriculture were exempted. Some were paid 3 months, some were paid 8 months. Is that how we want to run? As I speak to you, all the foreign lecturers who were still managing it, they have all left. Is that why we want to run a system? And every year we pay bogus amount of money to some foreign company on the so-called IPs, which they have changed. We'll talk about this later when they read their result. When they read the result of IPs, we are going to speak to this country. You told us IPs one time, now you're changing the name to something else. So what I'm saying in effect that what they are doing with UTAS is that they don't want a homegrown solution to our home problems. They want the foreign one where a group of people have some interest to compound our homegrown problem. As I speak to you, we read the ministry because they cannot speak. In all the MDAs, everybody is complaining about IPPIS, and we have developed a solution that was tested and scored 99.3%. Meanwhile, the IPs that people are promoting has never been tested. This is the first time they are trying to test it. It has never been tested, and you have used it for 18 years.
Yeah, but
as a country, if we love Nigeria, we should go for our homegrown that also have produced with the youth.
Right. You know, incidentally, government has spoken glowingly about IPs, how it has, you know, reduced fraud. In fact, even talked about GIFMIS, how the IPs has now replaced all of the issues we saw with IPs, but with GIFMIS rather. But let's wind down on this, because as we're having this conversation, there's students at home who are holding on to every word. They look to the federal government, they look to ASUU, they look to those in charge of negotiations, and it looks like nothing is coming forth. 5 months, I don't want to say good months, because I imagine what it is for them. So let's wind down on this. The president had said during that meeting, during the Salah break, that, you know, he appealed to people who had maybe ASUU's ears to find a way to, you know, speak to ASUU, get them back to school, and all of that. Is there anything, and I sense a lot of animosity really between ASUU, the Ministry of Labor, time and again, and I wonder, even if the solutions were simple, it would be hard to come up with something with this level of animosity. So is that something you can give Nigerian students, something you can give Nigerians to maybe give them hope as we wind down this morning?
Thank you very much. Let me take on the first thing you talked about, the issue of IPs being praised by government. We challenge the Nigerian government to publish the Auditor General report on IPs 2019. They should publish it. It's National Assembly, it's with the presidential sign. Let them publish the report of their own Auditor General, a man who was very fair to everybody. We challenge the government to publish the report of the Auditor General of 2019 on IPs. When you get that report and it's published, IPs, I also challenge Channel TV to using any of the Freedom of Information Act to get a copy of that report of the Auditor General. And you know that we have wasted our time, wasted our public money. My own idea is for the students and the lecturers and my children at home, they are here with me here. My appeal to them say, please be patient. You are fighting for the future of Nigerian universities. You are fighting for your children and great-grandchildren. Who, if we can change this trajectory that we have today, and we start having universities that students are coming from abroad, from all over the country, and the children of minister and you can sit there in the same lecture hall and have lecture, stay in the same hostel. That is what you are fighting for. And thank you. The future will honor you for your fight.
Thank you very much.
But we want to, as a union, we want to beg. Let me use the word beg and appeal to the president to look at the issue furtherly and let this one be his parting lot to Nigerian people, to transform our university to where it can compete with other universities in the world by signing that agreement or directing the ministry to sign that agreement.
Professor Emmanuel Osodeke, President of ASUU, thank you for your time today.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at some tweets coming through from you now. Go ahead with the first one.
Yes, and the first one comes from Professor Imonoka Innakina. He says, ASUU strike. Our political leaders must find a way to resolve this unending impasse. We must have national education plan to end this perennial ASUU NASU strike and enact feasible policies and programs to forestall further contempt in our ivory towers.
There are other unions, so there's ASUU, NARD, and the rest. But you know what? Take a look at this next tweet from Festus Akimboyewa that says that LASU and Osun lecturers continue to lecture is commendable. Lecturers in state universities have no business joining the ASUU strike, and government must employ temporary lecturers to reduce the impact on students in this long-running and increased acrimonious dispute.
Well, Akman Thomas says, I believe INEC can do more than involving the security personnel at the point of folding the ballot paper and inserting it into the box. The vote could be annulled if it is not folded within the cubicle.
Yeah, and that's an innovative way. So, you know, the participation of our viewers today suggests that INEC is not so helpless after all. So we hope that Professor Raji is still, you know, watching so he can hear this. Indeed, we want to thank you for your participation this morning, for all your comments. We appreciate them, and we urge you to keep them coming. Thank you for watching this morning. I am Bukola Samuel Wenimo.
Well, if you're a student affected by this strike, try to make good use of your time. Learn a skill, engage in some you know, courses and all of that. Just make sure that in the midst of all of this, you're adding value to yourself. I'm Kayode Okikelu.
I'm Train Bellin, so have yourselves a very great day.